My name is Linyu, and I live in a seemingly ordinary city that is full of warmth. Every morning, the sun shines through the sheer curtains and gently falls on the floor of my bedroom. I always wake up leisurely in this warm light. Next to me, my wife Suyao is still asleep. Her sleeping face is serene and beautiful, like a delicate work of art. Suya has long, dark, beautiful hair that falls like a black waterfall from her shoulders, smooth and shiny. Whenever I gently stroke her hair, my fingertips feel a sense of delicacy and softness, as if I were touching the most beautiful thing in the world. Her eyes are like a clear spring, and when she smiles, ripples seem to spread out from the spring, carrying endless tenderness and joy. Her skin is pale and delicate, like a piece of nephrite jade, glowing with a soft sheen in the sunlight, making you want to touch it. Her figure is exquisite, with a slender waist that is no more than a handful, as if I could take her whole into my arms with just one gentle embrace. Her legs are straight and long, with graceful lines, and every step she takes has a unique rhythm. Her posture is always so upright, and even when she is just standing there quietly, she is like a blooming flower, attracting everyone's attention. Our lives have always been surrounded by a happy atmosphere. Every evening, I always leave work on time, then go to the market to pick some fresh ingredients and go home to cook a big dinner for her. When she walks in the door from work and sees the table full of her favorite dishes, the look of surprise in her eyes and the big smile are the moments I look forward to most in the day. We will sit at the table, savoring the food while sharing the joys and sorrows of each other's day. Sometimes she will tell me some interesting things that happened in the lab. Although I don't really understand what she does, I feel incredibly happy just watching her beam with excitement. Suyao works in a mysterious laboratory located on the edge of the city, which is always shrouded in mystery. The doors of the lab are always closed, and only those with special credentials can enter. Every time I walked her to the lab's entrance and watched her walk through the heavy doors, a sense of curiosity would well up in me, but I never asked too many questions. In my opinion, everyone should have their own secrets and space, and I respected her choice and believed in her loyalty to our relationship. I thought that our lives would continue on in this peaceful and happy way forever, with the years passing quietly and the present world stable. But I had no idea that beneath the surface of this seemingly peaceful life, a storm was brewing. It was an ordinary weekend, and we went for a walk in the park as usual. The sun was shining, the breeze was light, and the park was full of laughter. Suyao was wearing a white dress, looking especially beautiful and moving in the sunshine. Her hand was tightly holding onto my arm as we walked slowly along the path by the lake, enjoying this peaceful and beautiful moment. Suddenly, Suyao's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, her face changing slightly, before quickly pressing reject. I noticed her unusual behavior and asked, "Who was it? Why didn't you answer?" Suyao gave a forced smile and said, "It's nothing, a nuisance call." Although I was a little suspicious, I didn't think much of it and continued chatting with her. However, after that, Suyao's behavior became a bit strange. She started working overtime a lot, and she came home later and later. Sometimes, I waited for her until late at night before she tiredly walked in the door. Moreover, her expression was always a bit absent-minded, as if she was thinking about something important. Once, while I was helping her pack her clothes, I accidentally found a note in her pocket. The note contained some strange symbols and numbers. I couldn't make out what it meant, but I felt a vague sense of unease. I showed the note to Suyao, and her face instantly turned pale. Then she quickly snatched the note away, saying, "This is some information from the lab that I accidentally put in the wrong pocket." As I watched her flustered expression, my doubts deepened. Despite my many doubts, I chose to believe her. I told myself that she must have her own reasons and that she would tell me when she was ready. But I didn't realize that this illusion of happiness would soon be completely shattered. A few days later, Suyao told me that she needed to go away for a few days to attend an academic conference. Although I was a little reluctant, I helped her pack her bags and see her off at the airport. During the days she was away, I called her every day to check on her. She always said that everything was fine and not to worry. However, on the night before she returned, I received a phone call from a strange woman. The woman on the other end of the line had a low voice, and she told me that Suya had met another man and that I should be careful. After I heard this, I felt a wave of anger and pain, but I still forced myself to hold back my emotions and asked her who it was. She just sneered and hung up. This phone call was like a bombshell, completely shattering the beautiful illusions in my heart. I began to doubt whether the happiness I thought I had really existed. Suyao's strange behavior and those details that made me feel uneasy kept popping up in my mind. I decided that when she came back, I would definitely ask her for clarification. Finally, Suya returned home. When she walked through the door, I looked at her tired figure. My anger and pain intertwined. Instead of greeting her as usual, I sat on the sofa and coldly watched her. Suya seemed to realize something when she saw my expression, and a flash of panic crossed her eyes. "Suyao, you explain to me clearly, what is going on?" I asked, holding back my anger. Suyao was silent for a moment, then slowly walked over to me and sat down. Her hands kept twisting together, as if she was hesitating how to start. "Lin Yu, I know I'm wrong, but listen to my explanation. Things aren't what you think." Suyao finally spoke, her voice trembling slightly. I looked at her, my confusion and anger growing. "So tell me what really happened. Is what that strange woman said true?" Suyao took a deep breath and began to tell me the story of what happened in the laboratory. It turned out that she had met a researcher called Nightshade in the laboratory. Nightshade had unique talents and a mysterious temperament, and he had made outstanding achievements in insect genetic research. Suyao was gradually attracted by his talents during her work with him, and Nightshade was also obsessed with Suyao's beauty and intelligence. Hearing this, I felt dizzy. I couldn't believe that my beloved wife would betray me. I angrily stood up, pointed at her, and yelled, "How could you? Is our relationship so worthless in your eyes?" Suyao cried and hugged my legs, saying, "Lin Yu, I really was just confused for a moment. I love you after all. Forgive me." As I looked at her crying, the anger in my heart gradually gave way to pain. I didn't know how to face the truth, nor did I know how to forgive her. Our happy life was completely shattered at that moment, and I too was plunged into endless pain and confusion. I turned around and walked into the bedroom, closing the door behind me. Suyao kept crying and apologizing outside the door, but I didn't have the courage to face her. I lay on the bed, looking at the ceiling, my mind filled with thoughts. Every little bit of the past kept playing back in my mind like a movie. I didn't know where our future should go. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, and our lives, because of the revelation of the secret, have also changed direction completely. The illusion of happiness has been shattered, and what awaits us will be unknown challenges and painful choices. That night, I spent in pain and torment, with images of Suya with the half-worm researcher Yi constantly flashing through my mind. Every imagined scene was like a sharp knife, stabbing my heart. The morning sun still shone through the curtains into the room, but the light that had once made me feel warm was now blinding. I dragged my heavy body out of bed and sat up, turning my head to look at the empty spot next to me. Suyao was no longer there. I knew that she must have gone to the lab early, either because she was afraid to face me or because she wanted to escape from it all. I got up and walked into the living room, where I saw a note on the dining table in Suyao's familiar handwriting. "Honey, breakfast is in the pot. Remember to eat it. I know I was wrong, so give me some time and I'll fix it. Don't be mad." Looking at this note, my heart was filled with mixed emotions. Anger, pain, and disappointment. All day long, I was distracted at work and made frequent mistakes. My colleagues could tell something was wrong, and they looked at me with concern. But how could I tell them about the pain I was feeling? All I could think about was Suyao, wondering what she was doing at that moment, whether she was with that night shadow again, and what they would say and do. I finally finished work, but instead of going to the market to buy groceries as usual, I went straight home. When I opened the door, the house was quiet and empty, without Suya's presence or the warmth of the past. I walked into the kitchen and saw that the breakfast in the pot had already cooled down. It was my favorite egg pancakes and hot porridge, but at this time I had no appetite at all. That night, I sat on the sofa, my eyes fixed on the wall clock, waiting for Suya to come home. Minutes passed, and it was past the time she usually got off work, but she still hadn't returned. My heart sank, and an ominous feeling overwhelmed me. Finally, at a little after 11 in the evening, I heard the sound of the key in the door. Suyao walked in tiredly. When she saw that I was still sitting on the sofa, a flash of panic and guilt crossed her eyes. "Why aren't you asleep yet?" she asked softly. I didn't answer her, just looked at her coldly and asked, "Why did you come home so late today? What were you doing?" Suyao's body trembled slightly, and she hesitated before saying, "There was a lot going on at the lab today, and I've been working overtime processing some experimental data." I looked at her, my heart filled with doubt. I stood up and walked up to her, saying, "Suyao, don't lie to me anymore, okay? Ever since you told me about that night shadow, I can't believe a word you say." Suyao's eyes reddened, and she reached out to grab my arm, but I dodged her. Her hand stopped in midair, her face full of loss and pain. "Linyu, I really didn't lie to you. I know I've done wrong, and I'm trying to draw a line between us. I've been in the lab all day today, just so I can finish my work early and avoid having to deal with him too much in the future," Suyao explained anxiously. I looked at her, and the anger in my heart flared up again. "So tell me, just how far had you two gotten before? Don't think I'm stupid. I've long since noticed your strange behavior." Suyao's tears welled up in her eyes, and she choked as she said, We just hung out and talked about work. I admit that I had some feelings for him, but I never did anything to hurt you." As I watched her cry, the anger in my heart subsided a little, but the seed of doubt had already been planted in my heart, and it would be difficult to remove it easily. In the following days, Suyao's behavior continued to make me uneasy. Although she came home on time every day, she always held her phone and hid in her room to send messages. Whenever I approached, she quickly turned off the screen. Once, while she was taking a shower, I secretly took her phone to see who she was chatting with. But when I opened the phone, I found that I needed a password. I tried several passwords we usually used, but none of them were correct. Just then, Suyao walked out of the bathroom and her face instantly turned pale when she saw me holding her phone. "What are you doing? Why are you looking at my phone?" Suyao asked angrily. I looked at her and said angrily, "Do you have something to hide? If you haven't done anything shameful, why won't you let me look at your phone?" Suyao's lips trembled as she snatched the phone away and said, "This is my privacy. You have no right to look." With that, she turned around and walked into the room, slamming the door behind her. After this incident, our relationship became even more strained. We were no longer as close as we had been, and we said less and less to each other every day. My suspicions about her grew deeper and deeper, and I even started to follow her. One day, I left work early and followed her secretly, trying to find out what she was really up to. I saw her go into the laboratory as usual, but after a while, she came out with Ying. Ying was wearing a black windbreaker, and his pointed ears made him stand out in the crowd. They walked side by side, and although there was no intimate behavior, they looked very relaxed, as if they were talking about something interesting. Seeing this, the anger in my heart was ignited once again. I rushed up to them and shouted, "Suyao, what are you doing?" Suyao and Ying were both taken aback by my sudden appearance. Suyao's face turned pale and she stuttered, "Linyu, why are you here?" "We were just discussing work." Ying looked at me, and a flash of provocation crossed his eyes as he said, "Mr. Lin, we really were just discussing work. You don't need to be so nervous." I looked at Ying and said angrily, "Don't pretend with me. I'm warning you, stay away from my wife." Ying sneered and said, "Suyao is an independent individual. She has her own choices. You cannot restrict her freedom." I became even more angry when I heard what he said. I clenched my fists and wanted to rush up and beat him up. Suyao saw the look on my face and hurriedly stopped me, crying, "Linyu, don't be like this. Let's go home and talk." I suppressed the anger in my heart and followed Suyao back home. All the way home, we didn't say a word. When we got home, Suyao sat on the sofa, crying and saying, "Linyu, I know you're angry right now, but I really didn't do anything to hurt you. Ying is just my colleague. There really isn't anything between us." I looked at her, and the pain and anger in my heart made me lose my mind. I yelled, "How dare you lie to me? I saw it with my own eyes. You were together, laughing and talking. Do you take me for a blind man?" Suyao cried even more, saying, "It was just work-related communication. I have already made it clear to him that there will be no more entanglements in the future. Just trust me this once." I looked at her, my heart filled with conflict. I loved her deeply and wanted to believe her, but her actions made it impossible for me to completely trust her. I didn't know what to do. Our relationship had reached a dead end, and the future was full of uncertainty. That night, we fell silent once again. I lay in bed, looking at the ceiling, my heart filled with confusion and pain. I didn't know if our relationship could ever return to the way it was, and I didn't know how to face Suyao in that night shadow. And Suyao, she tossed and turned next to me, as if she was also struggling with our relationship. As the days passed, our relationship did not improve. Suyao continued to go to the lab every day, and my suspicions about her grew deeper and deeper. I felt like a beast trapped in a cage, unable to break free from the painful shackles. I could only watch as our relationship crumbled little by little, but I was powerless to do anything about it. And the unknown signs of something different were still emerging, plunging me into even deeper pain and confusion. Ever since I followed Suyao that time and saw her with Yang with my own eyes, my heart has been like a reef constantly pounded by surging tides, never able to calm down. That scene is like a photo that has been developed over and over again, becoming clearer and clearer, and it is deeply etched in my mind. My suspicions about Suyao are like wild grass growing wildly, spreading wantonly in my heart and becoming hard to suppress. The days continued to pass slowly in torment, and the relationship between Suyao and I grew colder and colder. It was as if we were in the dead of winter, with very little to say to each other. The only communication we had was full of suspicion and indifference. I struggled painfully every day. On the one hand, I deeply loved Suyao and found it hard to let go of this relationship that had lasted for many years. On the other hand, her various dealings with Yi Ying made me feel like I had a lump in my throat, and I had nowhere to vent my anger and pain. That day, my busy work temporarily made me forget my troubles at home, but as I was about to go off duty, my leader suddenly told me that I would need to go on a business trip for a few days for the next project. Upon hearing this, my first reaction was not worry about work, but a strong sense of unease welled up in my heart. What will Suyao do with Yang while I'm away? Will they take advantage of my absence and get together even more recklessly? With a worried heart, I returned home. Suyao was sitting on the sofa, looking a little tired. When she saw me, a complex emotion flashed in her eyes, as if she were panicking, but she quickly hid it. I suppressed my displeasure and said, "I'm going to be away for a few days. Take care of yourself." Suyao was slightly startled, and then she said softly, "Okay. Be safe while you're away." After packing my bags, I lay on the bed, but I couldn't sleep at all. Images of Suyao and Yi Ying together kept popping up in my head. They might be working side by side in the lab, they might be whispering in a corner, or they might even be getting even closer during the days I'm away. Thinking about this, I sat up abruptly. The jealousy and anger in my heart made me make a decision. I would leave early and go see Suyao again before I left, to see if she would really do something that would make me completely despair. At 4 a.m., I got up quietly, trying not to wake Suyao. Watching her lie in bed with a calm face, I felt a mixture of emotions. Once, I loved this woman so much, but now she makes me so miserable. I took a taxi to the vicinity of the laboratory where Suyao worked and waited in a hidden corner. As the sky gradually brightened, the number of people around the laboratory also increased. I stared at the laboratory door, not daring to blink for fear of missing a single scene. Finally, I saw Suyao come out. She was wearing a white dress with long hair flowing down her shoulders, which was the outfit I used to like watching her wear the most. But at the moment, I had no mood to appreciate it, and my gaze followed her closely. Then Yi Ying also walked out of the lab, still wearing that black trench coat, with his pointed ears looking particularly conspicuous. They walked side by side towards a small garden next to the laboratory. It was a relatively quiet place that was rarely visited. My heartbeat suddenly quickened, and an ominous feeling overwhelmed me. I followed them carefully, keeping my footsteps very light, for fear of being discovered. Walking into the small garden, I saw them sitting on a bench. Su Yao's expression was a little serious, as if she was saying something, while Yi Ying was looking at her intently, his eyes revealing an emotion I couldn't read. I hid behind a big tree and listened hard to try to hear their conversation. Su Yao, are you really sure? Yi Ying's voice was low and full of magnetism. Su Yao nodded slightly and said, Yi Ying, I know that I have had some good feelings towards you before, but I cannot betray Lin Yu. Our relationship can only end here. Hearing Su Yao's words, a glimmer of hope welled up in my heart. Could it be that she really intended to completely sever ties with Yi Ying? A flash of disappointment crossed Yi Ying's face. He reached out to take Su Yao's hand, but she avoided it. Su Yao, don't you know how I feel about you? I don't care if you have a husband. I just want to be with you. Yi Ying's voice was tinged with urgency. Su Yao's eyes revealed a hint of struggle, but soon they hardened. Yi Ying, I can't do this. Lin Yu and I have had many fond memories together. I can't just give up our relationship so easily. Just then, Yi Ying suddenly stood up, grabbed Su Yao's shoulders with both hands, and tried to kiss her forcefully. Su Yao struggled hard and shouted, Yi Ying, let go of me. Seeing this, I could no longer suppress my anger, and rushed out like an enraged lion, pushed Yi Ying away, and then gave him a hard punch. Night Shadow fell to the ground after I hit him. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were full of anger and unwillingness. You crazy bastard! Night Shadow roared as he got up and tried to fight back. I stared at him fearlessly and yelled, You bastard! How dare you lay a hand on my wife? I'm warning you. Stay away from her, or I won't let you off. Su Yao saw me appear and her eyes were filled with both surprise and a hint of guilt. She ran over and took my arm, crying, Lin Yu, why have you come? I have already made things clear with him. He was just acting on impulse. I looked at Su Yao. The pain and anger in my heart made it impossible for me to remain calm. Made things clear? I saw everything. He tried to touch you, and you're still defending him. Yi Ying stood aside, sneering. Su Yao, look at you. This man doesn't trust you at all. You will never be happy with him. I became even more furious after hearing Yi Ying's words, and wanted to rush up to him again and punch him. But Su Yao stopped me dead. Lin Yu, don't fight anymore. Let's go home. Su Yao's voice was full of sobs, and her eyes were full of pleading. I suppressed the anger in my heart, glared at Yi Ying, and then dragged Su Yao away from the small garden. Along the way, Su Yao kept explaining to me that she had really made things clear with Yi Ying, and that Yi Ying's actions just now were just an accident. But the wound in my heart was already difficult to heal, and my trust in her had been exhausted over and over again by doubt and encounters. When we got home, Su Yao was sitting on the sofa, tears streaming down her face. I looked at her, my emotions mixed with anger, pain, and a twinge of worry. Su Yao, how can I trust you? I sat down opposite her, exhausted, my voice full of resignation. Su Yao looked up, her eyes full of remorse. Lin Yu, I really know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. I promise I'll never have any contact with him again. I looked at her, and the conflict in my heart grew stronger. I loved her deeply, but what she had done was something I could not easily forgive. That night, we sat facing each other in silence for a long, long time. The moonlight outside the window shone into the room, but it could not dispel the gloom in our hearts. I didn't know if our relationship could return to the way it was before, or how we should go on from here. And this first encounter, like a deep crack, lay between us, making our relationship even more precarious. After that fierce conflict in the small garden, the atmosphere at home became even more oppressive, as if the air had been frozen. Su Yao and I sat facing each other, with silence like a thick wall between us. Her tears had dried up, and her red, puffy eyes revealed deep fatigue and remorse, while the anger in my heart had gradually subsided, but the cracks from the hurt were still clearly visible. Lin Yu, I really know that I was wrong. Just trust me again. Su Yao's voice was weak and trembling, like a withered leaf that was swaying in the cold wind. I looked at her, my heart filled with mixed emotions. The love I once felt and the disappointment I felt now were intertwined, making it difficult for me to make a decision. Su Yao, how can I believe you after all your actions? I really don't know if I can go back to the past. My voice was full of helplessness and pain. The next few days were spent in this oppressive atmosphere. I remained on guard, while she carefully tried to please me and make up for her mistakes. However, the apparent calm could not hide the turmoil within. I always felt that there was a deeper secret behind this matter. One evening, I was working in my study when Su Yao walked in, holding an envelope. Her expression was hesitant, as if she was having a fierce internal struggle. Lin Yu, I want to show you something, she said, her voice trembling slightly. As she handed me the envelope, I took the envelope, looked at her suspiciously, and then opened it. Inside were some documents and photos. In the photos, Yi Ying was with a strange man, their expressions serious, as if they were discussing something. The documents recorded some content about the laboratory research projects. I took a closer look and found that these research projects seemed to be inextricably linked to Yi Ying's previous actions. What is this? I looked up and asked Su Yao. Su Yao took a deep breath and said, I found this in the lab. I felt that something was wrong, so I secretly took it out. I found that Yi Ying and the others seemed to be conducting a secret research project which could have a great impact on the lab and he approached me for a reason. I looked at the documents and photos in my hands, and my doubts deepened. You mean to say that there is a conspiracy behind why Night Shadow approached you? I asked. Su Yao nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. I only discovered it recently. I noticed that he was always asking about some of the work I did in the lab, whether he meant to or not, and it seems that his feelings for me are not as pure as they seem. Looking at Su Yao's expression, the anger in my heart was ignited once again. This bastard, how dare he use you? I clenched my fists and secretly vowed in my heart that I would make Yi Ying pay. Su Yao looked at me with gratitude in her eyes. Lin Yu, I know I was wrong before, but this time I really want to make up for my mistakes. Let's work together to find out what happened. So Su Yao and I began to secretly investigate the Night Shadow. We collected evidence through various channels to try to uncover the conspiracy behind Night Shadow. In the course of our investigation, we discovered that Night Shadow had close ties to a mysterious organization that seemed to want to steal the research results from the laboratory and use them for illegal purposes. As our investigation deepened, we faced more and more danger. On several occasions, we almost got caught while following Nightshade, and we felt a little uneasy because it seemed that our every move was being watched. One night, we found Nightshade and the members of the mysterious organization in an abandoned warehouse. They were conducting a secret transaction, the content of which was precisely the research results of the laboratory. Su Yao and I hid in the shadows, watching their every move. Nightshade, are you sure these research results are real? Said a man wearing a mask. Nightshade nodded and said, Don't worry, I've already got the key data. These research results are definitely real. Very good. As long as you hand over these research results to us, we will pay you as agreed, said the masked man. Just as they were about to make the exchange, Su Yao and I decided to step forward. We rushed out and shouted, Night Shadow, your plot will not succeed. Night Shadow and the masked man saw us and their faces showed expressions of surprise. Why are you here? Night Shadow's voice contained a hint of panic. Night Shadow, you despicable man. How dare you use Su Yao to achieve your ends? Today, we must make you pay the price, I said angrily. Night Shadow sneered and said, Humph, just the two of you, and you want to stop us? You are so naive. Just then, the masked man suddenly took out a gun and pointed it at us. You'd better not make a move or I won't be polite. The masked man's voice was cold and ruthless. Su Yao and I were both taken aback. We never thought they would be so crazy. Just at this critical moment, the police suddenly arrived. It turned out that during our investigation, Suyao had quietly reported the case to the police. The police quickly brought the situation under control and arrested all of Night Shadow and the members of the mysterious organization. After the police investigation, the truth finally came to light. In order to seek personal gain, Ying colluded with the mysterious organization and tried to steal the research results of the laboratory. He approached Suyao in order to obtain insider information about the laboratory. After discovering his plot, Suyao promptly stopped and cooperated with us to bring them to justice. When the truth came out, the anger and pain in my heart gradually dissipated. I looked at Suyao and my heart was full of gratitude. Suyao, thank you. You have shown me your determination and courage. Suyao's eyes were filled with tears. Linyu, I want to thank you. You have always been by my side supporting me and helping me. I will definitely love you well in the future and never let you get hurt again. After this storm, the relationship between Suyao and I has also changed a lot. We cherish each other more, and we also understand the importance of trust and loyalty. Although our relationship has been through the baptism of wind and rain, I believe that as long as we love each other and support each other, we will be able to overcome all difficulties and usher in a better future. And this experience will also become an unforgettable memory in our lives, always reminding us to cherish the happiness in front of us. After Yi Ying and the members of the mysterious organization were taken away by the police, temporary peace returned to the home. However, beneath the appearance of that seeming calm, my heart was like surging waves, unable to calm down for a long time. Suyao's betrayal and sudden awakening, Yi Ying's scheming and plotting, all of this has plunged me into deep confusion about our relationship. Suyao has been taking great care of me these days, carefully trying to please me. She gets up early every morning, prepares breakfast for me with great care, and cooks my favorite foods in different ways. In the evening, she comes home early, cleans the house until it is spotless, and hands me my slippers when I come home, asking after my day. Even so, her past actions are like unhealed scars that occasionally prick my heart. On a quiet evening, the moonlight poured into the room like water. Suyao and I sat by the bed, speechless. Suyao's eyes were full of expectation, as if waiting for me to speak. I took a deep breath and broke the suffocating silence. Suyao, although the truth has come to light, do you know? You have hurt me so deeply. I really don't know how to face our relationship. Suyao's eyes instantly reddened, and tears swirled in her eyes. She reached out and gently took my hand, her voice trembling as she said, Linyu, I know I was wrong, and I really regret it. At that time, I was blinded by Yi Ying's sweet words and was confused. But ever since I discovered his plot, I have made up my mind to make up for my mistakes. I swear to the heavens that in the future, I will only love you and never do anything to hurt you again. Looking at Suyao's pitiful appearance, the good times we once spent together flashed through my mind like a movie. We walked together on the beach, watched the sunrise and sunset together, and experienced every little bit of life together. Those sweet memories made the love in my heart well up again. But then I thought of the image of her with Yi Ying, and the anger and pain in my heart struck again. Just as I was torn between conflicting emotions, my phone suddenly rang. It was a call from a good friend of mine. He said on the other end of the line, Linyu, I heard about Suyao. Don't be stupid. A woman who has betrayed you like that doesn't deserve your devotion. You're in a good position. Find someone better. Why hang yourself on just one tree? My friend's words were like a sharp blade, piercing my heart. I hung up the phone and fell into deeper contemplation. Yes, Suyao's betrayal was a fact. But could I really forgive her so easily? If I chose to forgive her, what would people around me think of me? Would they laugh at me for being weak and having no principles? Suyao seemed to sense my wavering, and she hugged me tightly, crying, Linyu, please don't leave me. I know I've let you down, but I really can't live without you. Can we start over? I'll spend my whole life proving my love for you. I gently pushed her away, stood up, walked to the window and looked out at the night scene. The city was brightly lit, but my heart was dark. I thought of my parents, who had always taught me to stand by my principles and be faithful in relationships. If I forgave Suyao, how would I face my parents? Would they be disappointed in me? However, when I looked back and saw Suyao's tear-stained face, my heart softened again. I knew that I still loved her deeply. I couldn't imagine living without her, and I didn't want to experience the loneliness and pain again. Over the next few days, I was in constant agony. During the day, I was distracted at work and my productivity was low. My colleagues noticed the difference in me and looked at me with concern, but I couldn't tell them about my worries. At night, when I got home, I faced Suyao's careful gaze, and the conflict in my heart became even stronger. One day, I was walking in the park when I saw an old couple holding hands, smiling happily. At that moment, I suddenly felt something stirring in my heart. I remembered the vow that Suyao and I had made, to support each other and spend our lives together. Maybe everyone makes mistakes, but the important thing is whether you can correct them. Suyao has already recognized her mistake and is trying to make amends. Shouldn't I give her a chance? When I got home, Suyao was busy in the kitchen. She saw me come in and a smile appeared on her face, a smile that held a hint of expectation and unease. I walked over to her and gently embraced her, saying, "Suyao, I've decided to give you another chance. But this time, if you let me down again, I really won't forgive you." Suyao's eyes sparkled with surprise. She hugged me tightly and could hardly hold back her sobs. "Linyu, thank you. Thank you for believing in me. I promise that I will love you well in the future and never let you suffer anymore." Although I had made this difficult decision, I was still a little worried. I didn't know if our relationship could really return to the way it was before, or how many difficulties and challenges we would encounter along the way. But I was willing to try, for the sake of our past love and for our future. Since then, our lives seem to have returned to normal. Suyao works hard every day to manage our relationship. She is more considerate and cherishes the time we spend together. I, too, am slowly letting go of my doubts and mistrust, and trusting and loving her again. But that painful experience is like a wake-up call, constantly reminding us to cherish each other and remain faithful to our relationship. Our future is still full of unknowns, and it will take time to test whether we can work through all the storms together. It seems that Suyao and I are gradually getting back on track after I decided to give her another chance. However, fate always likes to stir up waves without warning. As the days passed, Suyao continued to show me meticulous care, and I also tried to let go of the pain of the past and tried to fully devote myself to this relationship again. We would go to the movies together on the weekends, stroll hand in hand through the streets, and enjoy the sweetness of life like ordinary lovers. But sometimes, when it was quiet late at night, those memories would still come flooding back like ghosts, waking me up in a cold sweat. One day, Suya came home from work pale and in a daze. I hurried up to her and asked with concern, "Suya, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" Suya forced a smile and shook her head, saying, "It's nothing. I just got a little tired in the lab today." Although I was a little suspicious, I didn't ask any more and just told her to get some rest early. However, over the next few days, Suyao's condition became more and more unusual. She often sat alone on the sofa, staring blankly, her eyes vacant, and she seemed a little distracted by my concerns. When I asked her again, she just said that work was stressful and asked me not to worry. Until one day, I received a phone call from Suyao's colleague. The voice on the other end of the line was a little hurried. "Linyu, come to the lab as soon as possible. Something's happened to Suyao." My heart tightened, and without thinking, I immediately dropped what I was doing and rushed to the lab. When I arrived, I saw Suyao sitting in a chair, with several colleagues standing nearby, all of them looking grave. I ran over to her, took her hand and anxiously asked, "What's wrong?" Suyao looked up, her eyes full of fear and confusion. She said in a trembling voice, "Ying, Ying." It turned out that after being taken away by the police, Ying did not receive the punishment he deserved, as we had hoped. The forces behind him were very powerful, and they bailed him out through various means. Moreover, it seems that he harbored a grudge against Suyao for betraying him, and had been secretly investigating Su Yao and my lives, preparing to take revenge when the opportunity arose. Just today, Su Yao received an anonymous letter in the lab with some photos attached. The photos showed scenes from my daily life with Su Yao, where we were walking in the park, eating in a restaurant, and even at our doorstep. The letter was full of threats and intimidation, warning Su Yao that if she didn't do what they wanted, they would do harm to me. As I looked at the photos, a strong feeling of anger and fear welled up in my heart. I was angry that this despicable person, Yi Ying, would stoop to such despicable tactics, and I was afraid that Su Yao and I were in grave danger. I took Su Yao's hand and comforted her, saying, "Don't be afraid. I'm here. They won't dare to do anything to us." However, things were far more complicated than we had imagined. From then on, a shadow was cast over our lives. We found that we seemed to be followed at all times, and no matter where we went, we could feel a pair of eyes watching us in the dark. Our phones also frequently received strange text messages, all about getting Suya to do things for them, or else we would pay the price. Suya is consumed by deep self-blame and fear. She feels that it is all her fault and that she has put me in danger. She is worried every day, unable to eat or sleep, and her health is deteriorating. I feel so much pain when I see her like this, but there is nothing I can do. To protect Suya and me, I decide to report the matter to the police. However, after investigation, the police told us that since the threats were anonymous, and there was insufficient evidence to prove that Nightshade was responsible, they were unable to take effective measures for the time being. This left us feeling utterly desperate. Just when we felt helpless, a mysterious person contacted us. He told us via encrypted email that he could help us get rid of the Nightshade threat, but we would have to pay a price. Su Yao and I were full of doubts about the mysterious person's identity and intentions, but in this situation, it seemed that we had no other choice. We followed the mysterious man's instructions and met him in an abandoned factory. When we arrived, we saw a man wearing a black hat and a mask standing there. His voice was low and hoarse. "If you want to get rid of the threat of Nightshade, you must help me with one thing." I asked warily, "What is it?" "You first tell me your conditions." The mysterious man sneered, "I want the latest research results from your laboratory. As long as you hand it over to me, I guarantee that Nightshade will not trouble you again." Su Yao and I looked at each other, and we both understood that the research results of the laboratory could never be handed over to strangers. This not only related to our professional ethics, but could also cause serious harm to society. But if we did not agree to the mysterious man's request, we would not be able to get rid of the threat of Night Shadow. We were caught in a dilemma and didn't know what to do. This unexpected turn of events once again plunged our already eventful lives into crisis. The future path to take, whether we could escape the Night Shadow's entanglement, and whether we could protect ourselves and the lab's research results under the threat of this mysterious person, were all full of unknowns, and we could only struggle to find a glimmer of hope in this dark fog. Facing the demands of the mysterious man in the abandoned factory, Su Yao and I were caught in a painful dilemma. Seeing that we were hesitant, the mysterious man said no more, leaving only the words, "Think about it soon, or else you will suffer the consequences," before disappearing into the shadows of the factory, leaving us alone in the empty space, surrounded by a suffocating silence. After leaving the factory, Suya gripped my arm tightly. Her hands were cold and trembling, and her face was full of anxiety and fear. "Linyu, what should we do? If we don't agree to his terms, Nightshade won't let us go. But if we hand over the results of the lab, the consequences will be unimaginable." Suya's voice was full of helplessness and sounded like she was about to cry. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. "Suyao, don't panic. We can't just agree to his demands, but we can't just sit here and do nothing either. We need to find out who this mysterious person is and what forces are behind him. There might still be a way out." I squeezed Suyao's hand to try to give her strength and to cheer myself up as well. After returning home, we locked ourselves in our room and began to carefully analyze the current situation. I turned on the computer and tried to find some clues in the encrypted email to see if I could track down the identity of the mysterious person. Su Yao was standing nearby, writing down on paper everything we knew about Nightshade and the mysterious person, trying to figure out the connections. In analyzing the email, I discovered that it had been encrypted using multiple layers of encryption, and that ordinary tracking methods were unable to crack it. But I was not discouraged. I thought of a friend from university who was a computer genius, and I thought he might be able to help. So I immediately called him and explained the situation to him. After hearing what I had to say, my friend agreed to help me without hesitation. Meanwhile, Suya also made some discoveries. She recalled that in the lab, Yang had been very close to someone named Dr. Zhang, and Dr. Zhang's behavior had been a bit unusual lately. She remembered that once. She was in the lab hallway and overheard Dr. Zhang talking on the phone with someone else in a very mysterious tone, as if discussing some secret matter. Maybe this Dr. Zhang is related to the mysterious person and Yang, Suya said. So we decided to start with Dr. Zhang. The next day, Suyao went to work in the lab as usual, while I kept a close watch around the lab to see if I could spot any unusual behavior on the part of Dr. Zhang. In the lab, Suya cautiously approached Dr. Zhang's desk, trying to find some useful clues. Pretending to be sorting through files, she scanned Dr. Zhang's desk with her eyes. Suddenly, she noticed that Dr. Zhang's computer was not locked, and the screen displayed some strange codes and files. Her heart raced, and she quickly took out her phone to take a picture of the content. Just then, Dr. Zhang suddenly walked in. Suyao was startled and almost dropped her phone. "Suyao, what are you doing?" Dr. Zhang's voice was cold and full of suspicion. Suyao pretended to be calm and said, "Oh, Dr. Zhang, I was looking for a document and accidentally saw that your computer was on, so I took a look." A hint of vigilance flashed in Dr. Zhang's eyes as he quickly walked over to the computer and turned off the screen. "In the future, don't touch my things without my permission," Dr. Zhang said. Suyao quickly nodded and turned away from Dr. Zhang's desk. She walked out of the lab, met up with me, and showed me what she had captured on her phone. We looked at the strange codes and files, and although we didn't quite understand what they meant, our intuition told us that they were important. I sent the photos to my computer genius friend, who quickly replied after looking at them that the codes seemed to be related to an illegal scientific research organization that had been secretly stealing the research results of major laboratories and then trading them illegally. This strengthened our belief that Dr. Zhang was inextricably linked to the mysterious person and the forces behind Nightshade. In order to investigate further, we decided to follow Dr. Zhang. For the next few days, we followed him every day after work. Finally, one day we found Dr. Zhang entering a remote bar. We followed him in, sat in a corner, and observed every move he made. Dr. Zhang secretly took out a USB flash drive. Although the code was encrypted, it was obvious that it contained the research results of various laboratories. Zhang secretly took a look at the contents of the flash drive, then pulled Suyao away from the group and let us go. Then pulled Suyao away from the photo group and let us stand in the middle of the corridor. I followed the usual punishment for sneaking around with a boyfriend. I, too, was still suffering from the experience of being humiliated by you just now. At least I'm not afraid of you anymore. It not only causes cracks, but also fills the room with harmful substances. I was threatened with eviction, and my family was told that if we didn't leave, we would be evicted. We were desperate. We went to the factory 7 times, and finally got in touch with the person in charge. The person in charge told us that the car was abandoned and that the car would be towed away, and showed me the details on the map. The car suddenly stopped and sped down the street, leaving me to bite my tongue. While I was frantically looking for my keys, my colleague, who was just like me, was able to seize every opportunity to go out and explore the streets. I introduced myself to the neighbors, and they gradually became friends with us. Although my eyes were gradually adjusting to the darkness, I could still see the owner of the house staring at us with a threatening look. "Are we strong enough to protect ourselves? You go first." Next, at night, I ran to the door and couldn't wait to kiss you. I searched for you, and when I found you, we were so happy to see each other. What a surprise! I took a picture and discovered that Zhang Qian had actually smiled in the park. Zhang ran over to him. This time, his eyes caught the deep rift in the relationship between the two of them. He suddenly walked over to the filing cabinet and said, and I was reminded of the precarious situation of the family. After experiencing a lot of ups and downs, I looked at Su Ruyang's face and saw the light of God. I didn't see any traces of my family's hard work. I shrank back and hurriedly swept the house. Dust was spotless. I was dressed in a neat suit under the finishing touches of the organizer, and I looked at my watch. It was time to go to the meeting. Our family's financial situation has naturally suffered a blow, and we need to develop it. You can't help but feel angry and frustrated. My parents have always taught me to be persistent. Looking back, I can smile and remember the years of hard work. In order to protect the family, we fell into a dilemma. They were trapped in a strange city. Zhang Nan was wandering around for a long time. One day, he met Su Yao, who had also been trapped for thousands of years. They were both shocked. Zhang Nan said, "If you are ready to wait for a violation," and held her hand. The strange city suddenly became stable. Su Yao was guarding the city. They were trapped in some strange city. They have been locked in an encrypted room and are full of anxiety and fear. My heart is full of anxiety. After the police solved the conflicts in the team through mediation, the evil spirits appeared in the night and threatened to destroy us. Su Yao asked, biting her lip, "Where to put these documents?" "You first. Look at the relevant articles." The photos and documents were stuck together with the nightstick, and the detective entered with Su Yao. When Su Yao returned to the office after work, she apologized to Dr. Zhang for the mistake. The thousands of people waiting for the weekend to end, and the country class returning to the disaster area. After all, you threatened to let the law go to the bottom of the road. Su Yao also had some doubts. You will refuse to answer all questions, but you will always return to the question of pain. It's also a bit embarrassing, Lin Zishang said. Night Shadow and some other people are waiting for us, and someone said that we are almost killed and we are about to win. We drove on. The camera I had with me had experienced the victory of leaving and the mysterious people who often came and went. Thank you, you are welcome. I didn't have a lock screen on this brain, so we sent these photos to friends to fold them up and let the screen flash every moment on the street. What I discovered on the street, I have never experienced before. After years of being tired, I have never been so excited. If I blink even once, I will miss the future that is waiting for me at the door of my home. I am full of joy and excitement. They seem to be spreading all over the place. The screen is so close that I can almost touch it. I take a mirror and turn my home into our dream house. The night is full of regret. My wife and I are just two people. How can we possibly change the world? He said that he would add a layer of heart to our efforts, and the momentum became more and more obvious. We have cleaned thousands of glasses, and we have become more and more clear-sighted. We have developed a habit of saving water and electricity. We have even learned that the mirror reflects people's inner selves. If you walk away dirty, you will soon meet with disaster. I heard 1,000 words of wisdom and suddenly realized that I had benefited from it. I quickly gave the stranger a hug and took a picture with the camera. At night, I let my anger subside. There is no way to explain the benefits to yourself and your family in detail. You have to seize every opportunity. I will stick to my principles and enter the lion's den. I dare to make use of the research you have done. Zhang Nan was staring at the mirror, as if in a trance, and then suddenly, with a start, he looked up and said, "I can't believe I've finally found you. You are the one. You are the one I've been waiting for. You are the one I've been dreaming of. You are the one I've been looking for. You are the one I've been missing. You are the one I've been longing for. You are the one I've been missing. You are the one I've been longing for. You are the one I've been missing. You are the one I've been longing for. You are the one I've been missing. You are the one I've been longing for. You are the one I've been missing. 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 You are the one in my mind, one after another, flashing past. I can't help but think of the family, the cup of tea, the mirror in the bathroom, the time spent with my husband, the mirror in the bedroom, the future of our future. I want to insist that we all benefit from the returns on our investments. I have been deeply moved by the door-to-door visits in front of the computer, which have never stopped since we started. I have been moved by the people who have come to our door without any hesitation. I have been moved by the street vendors who have been selling their wares on the street corners for so long. If you say something like that to someone, and they get mad at you, I really hit someone and they left in a hurry just looking for why to take the blame. I felt a tremor, and then I saw a flash of light. What was going on at the beach? I heard a voice say, "It's like the rules say, the night shadows, with the bitter cold, the night I ran away. I also have some words for you to spread. I'm the one." The machine suddenly appeared, and the anger in the room made the already tense conversation even more difficult to understand. You can see the strange attitudes of our companions again, and the hands of some people are shaking, as if they have been hurt. I look at the bright moonlight in front of me. Night shadows and love slowly welled up in my heart. Reply quickly and say that after hearing these friends, Yao Yao's washing machine has suddenly stopped working since the beginning of the ceremony. D is angry with both hands. After learning about these things, you let us know from the beginning, and we will find the right doctor for you. Dr. Lee, I am worried about the harm to my child's hands. I am on the phone and dialed the phone number. I was so happy that I almost dropped the phone. You benefit me, these feelings are successful. I sighed to him and quickly hung up the phone, afraid of hurting his feelings. If you want to express your love to someone, but don't know how, then you can try the following. Go to the top of a tall building, hold a camera in your hands, and take a picture of the two of you kissing. This will help you to try out the dialogue of a happy embrace. Our friends are in a strange place. A remote place is considered mysterious by people. Some photos were sent to the U.S. Office of Public Interest, which immediately panicked, but the laboratory director was provoked by the anger of the room. Try to see the heavy wall that stands between us. My intuition tells me to give me another chance and follow through. Thirsty in the waist, I walked slowly and touched the laboratory door. I can't suppress my anxiety. I feel like being stabbed. I can't help but feel anxious. I wrote on the wall, "I can't help but feel anxious." The words on the wall echoed with my pain. After a while, I realized that Zhang Bo had already. After 2 years of experience, I found a place where the night shadow is all bright and I kicked it into love. Sue is really sure that the next few days the two of you are going to be on a business trip, and you will be calling her every day. The more shields you call, the more you hurt. Love Yao, you let her go this time. A Zhang thought about the struggle. Oh, and I can't help but feel a little bit of guilt. You benefit from doing things for others, and I should have done the same for you. So I immediately called the police to report the theft. Long after the police had given up hope of finding the two of them, they were welcomed by a Zhang Bo neighbor who had just returned from the countryside. The neighbor said that he had been worried about the two of them and had been looking for them everywhere. Professionals. We would like to thank the police for their help. We welcome the experience of the survivors, and this time the scale of the disaster makes us even more aware of the danger. We are so crazy that we have witnessed the different stances to a firm belief that we are not alone. You can also read about it here. Without further ado, I continued to accumulate information and cooperated with the investigation team to provide assistance, the most effective way being online communication. As the investigation deepened, more and more clues led from the crime scene to the suspect. Step by step, we found the busy streets of the city at night. We were like thieves creeping into the house. I learned to be cautious. We were afraid that every time we entered, we would be discovered. I believe that happiness is also possible in difficult times. We will definitely sort out the paperwork after we get back. 5 days of self-isolation and testing the limits of endurance have brought us closer together. I have overcome many difficulties and challenges together with Suya, supporting each other and encouraging each other through the hard times. The days will pass. We cherish each other more, and we also know how to love each other more carefully. We treat and deal with each other with respect, and we are willing to fight for the future of our family. We are gradually changing from being similar to each other to becoming one heart and soul. In the future, no matter what difficulties we encounter, I believe that as long as we love each other and trust each other, we will definitely be able to overcome any difficulties and welcome a better future together. After enduring the pain of those dark days and overcoming the hardships, we gradually got over the police's lack of protection and continued to accumulate our savings without any direction. After the police gave us a few pointers, the point of harm entered the room, and our lives were enveloped in a sense of foreboding. A cold chill ran down my spine. I was still waiting for a welcome when the meeting was about to start. I was so distracted that I didn't notice the danger until the police arrived. According to the police, I was using a shortened line to circumvent the review process. I was about to step forward to find the person who shortened the line when I suddenly realized that the police were investigating the matter in depth. After I was so desperate that I invested in these places and chased after Sway to collect the trail, but there was almost no information about him. I had no choice but to use the only thread I had. After a while, I finally passed the police line. Day passed day after day. The police's investigation gradually led to him. On the way to the lab, I discovered that the relationship between the Nightshade twins was far more complicated than we had imagined. That night, I dared to go to the lab to ask her about the Nightshade twins. I glanced at the photo in the lab and also went to a certain room. The laboratory was in fact the place where she had spent the most nights in the past few weeks. The night shift was the most difficult shift, and she had been working overtime to help out. As she walked towards the laboratory, she recalled the past love. After the police have investigated many times, I seem to have gradually found the culprit. It was a woman who had been working in a nightclub in the country. She was suspected of fabricating damage to the leather effect in order to avoid paying the compensation. Was the last to get off the train. I suspect that she was involved in the trafficking. I would like to find the traffickers and bring them to justice. The investigation is still ongoing. The traffickers have entered the country through the front door chainway. As the investigation progresses, the police find more and more clues. It is clear that the murderer is someone in the lab. We discover that the night shadow involves a phone number that is more and more vulnerable. The murderer is hiding in the lab. Then, when they arrived at the sea of red anger, they felt a scream of pain. They lied to the experimenter and said that they wanted to sing. They tricked their way out of the experiment, but when they walked out, they realized that the surface of the experiment was actually a deep cave. There was a glimmer of hope in the darkness. They walked through the cave, and the more they walked, the more they promised each other that they would become successful and bring hope to the world. They need to do it. The point is to show me once and for all. I and Suyao felt incredibly sad and angry. In the face of self-deprecation, she felt as if she had been deceived. She had long since discovered the truth, but she was afraid to say anything. Maybe a drama is not honest. She hugged him tightly, and he was relieved. That it was her fault that we were now in a situation where we had to face the truth. We didn't know what to say. Yao's eyes were wide with fear. I looked at the ground. I knew that the important welcome was under the finishing touches. I was in a panic, wondering what to do. I saw the injured person on the ground, and the police were over there trying to find out the situation under the circumstances. There is sufficient evidence to arrest the suspect. The police took measures to find the suspect. The night after the incident, the police reorganized and took measures. After the police left, the night was quiet, and the mirror day and night. Sue and I have been through the police station, the detention center, and the police headquarters, and finally called the traffic police at high speed to the smugglers' meeting room. We crashed into the observation team members, and the machine was in the middle of the room. The phone rang, and they walked over to find out what was going on. The night before, they had organized a meeting with enough people to cause enough trouble. They entered the bathroom and sat at some secret table. In the corner, trying to destroy it. The important thing was the way they sat. I was so crazy that I accidentally deleted the number of the electric kettle. I quickly called the police to control the situation, and I have been recovering the data of the delete button. This number will become a quick way to escape. However, if you want to find me, it's a secluded and beautiful forest trail. Just send me a message and I'll be there to show you the way. To give me a clean bill of health. I tried to add a few words, but was very nervous. After being searched by the police, you will naturally feel a little uneasy. However, if you keep calm and take a few steps, you will find that the police will be more willing to cooperate with you, and the root cause of the harm in your heart will be reduced. With the gradual improvement door, the room is full of dust, and the net of the evening is almost destroyed. Then, from the beginning, let the police find the secret. With the envelope of the police investigation letter, and the police know how to handle it. They kept investigating and finally found out the truth. The police seems to be very clear. Sue and I smoked cigarettes and drank tea. Yao Yao spent this time in the future, and I was filled with fear, anger, and resentment. I was happy to see that the hostess was dressed up and sincerely apologized to us. I hope that in the end, they will not forget our friendship and kindness, and we will not forget our room. After the movie, we went to the restaurant to find a way to spend the rest of the evening. The trial judge looked at you with great concern. After the injured people had left, they all rushed to him, one after the other, and blinked at him. His shadow seemed to have lost its pain and weakness, and he was looking for a way to bear the burden. He was unable to deny the truth, and he could only shake his head in the door of the room. We are all facing a test, and we must be prepared. I will manage the office. I will manage the office. After the initial panic, we gradually returned to our usual lives. I left work early and went back to her place. City work is a heavy responsibility. Heavy responsibility life. You should pay attention to the environmental impact of your actions. We need to support each other and cherish each other more. We should observe people's emotions and look for opportunities to develop and improve ourselves. I want to, but the physical and emotional distance between us is getting harder and harder to overcome. Everyone's emotions are rising, and anger is constantly simmering, and some people are even getting angry. I'm afraid it is difficult to go from anger to sincere friendship. I believe that as long as we are persistent, we will encounter fewer difficulties and challenges, and we will embrace our future. Leaving the mirror was the first step towards her return. After some consideration, she felt that she had not yet fully appreciated the beauty of the mirror. Yo-Yo sighed the faint smell of incense in the empty temple, the soft sound of the bell always ringing to remind people to be steadfast in their faith. The sun is shining, there is no trace of clouds in the sky, and the sea is wandering around, looking for 1,000 miles away. Naturally, I feel sincere. I remember the sea, rent a room facing each other, go to the beach every day. Although the loss of anger has changed the disposition, I can't help but push the window to see the sea. What can I do? The emotions gradually change, and the room becomes more and more comfortable. Suddenly, I walked in. Our home is a place where we feel so at home that we never want to leave. We walked hand in hand, held hands as we strolled along the riverbank. We looked at the sun shining on the buildings and imagined them rising higher and higher. The golden light shone through the trees and bathed everything in a warm glow. We were in the golden hour, when the sun is at its most beautiful. When we are cooking, we are always in a hurry. We pick up the food and then rush to the table, always losing ourselves in the process. We are always in a hurry to finish the meal and then rush to the table, always losing ourselves in the process. We are always in a hurry to finish the meal and then rush to the table, always losing ourselves in the process. We are always in a hurry to finish the meal and then rush to the table, always losing ourselves in the process. We are always in a hurry to finish the meal and then rush to the table, always losing ourselves in the process. We are always in a hurry to finish the meal and then rush to the table, always losing ourselves in the process. We are always in a hurry to finish the meal and then rush to the table, always losing ourselves in the process. We are always in a hurry to finish the meal and then rush to the table, always losing ourselves in the process. We are always in a hurry to finish the meal and then rush to the table, always losing ourselves in and then prepare for the guests. They have made our room beautiful for the wedding day. During the day, the room is busy with work. It is fortunate that I was able to find a part-time job within a kilometer. The work is quiet and requires a lot of repetition, but I have changed a lot since then. Suyao, on the other hand, a beautiful room, and she is happy to have found a job that is not dangerous and that everyone can enjoy. The conclusion of the story. The soft lighting and beautiful space make the room even more wonderful. Suyao is a hard worker and always gives her friends encouraging words. Suyao has changed a lot very often. we find that the impact of a change is not as harmful as the fear of change. We are in the middle of a room, and we can't help but worry about the impact. After careful consideration, we decided to go shopping together for fruit, and then I told her what I had in mind. Suyao was in the car during this period of time. She had a lot of ups and downs. She tried to comfort me and reminded me of the important things in life. Sometimes we just want to spend the day in peace and quiet. Then, we get tired, it's hard to hurt, so I don't. This makes us feel troubled. The sky is so beautiful. It will become a memory that makes me cherish it more. I'm disciplined to work hard. On weekends, sometimes, we go fishing at the sea. After fishing, we rent a boat and start fishing along the coast. Sometimes, after a long time fishing, we catch a big fish. We are so happy that we can't help smiling. I look at her face, and she feels like a fairy always smiling. We catch a big fish and go home a week later. I enter the kitchen and feel the wonderful space tremble. The kitchen is full of happiness. The kitchen is full of happiness. The kitchen is full of happiness. A little boy enters the kitchen, looking for his mother, who is slowly coming to. He is crying. The mother returns home, having experienced a lot of hardship and paperwork. These photos have been taken in the delivery room. The kitchen, the happy couple's faces light up the room. The happy couple's faces light up the room, and the whole family is filled with happiness. Even the fish in the aquarium seems to be saying, "Happy New Year." There is no better way to welcome in the new year than with a big family dinner. Sighs, really, Luo, you really are a good person. You are so considerate. You even put the chopsticks on the table for me. I really want to thank you, but I don't know how to repay you. I really 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 don't lock the door. The children are excited. The kitchen is full of food and the children are waiting for the arrival of their parents. Dr. Vitstham opens the door and asks the children if they are excited about the arrival of their parents. Will they feel the same about me? This is the question that has been on the children's minds for the past few days. I entered the classroom and took a few steps. I felt a little dizzy and my throat was hoarse. I took a few deep breaths and felt better. It is difficult to overcome the pain and suffering, but the warm and sincere care of the staff, including the cleaning staff, has made us feel at home. We have no words to express our gratitude, but we will definitely recommend your hotel to our friends. Every week, they build a fire, cook a meal, and find a way to spend their time together. They go fishing on Sundays and spend the rest of the week together. Why are they so happy? The boat. The U-shaped bow of the boat is designed to swing from side to side. If you are in a boat accident, you should immediately report the accident to the captain and the person in charge. If the injury is minor, the skin is not damaged. Take small steps to protect your eyesight. These are some tips for protecting 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 your eyesight. We will rest on the east side of the room. If you rush to catch up, you will hurt yourself. At night, we will take a walk to recover our energy. We will play chess and cards to pass the time. We will watch TV and chat with friends. We will share the content on the internet. We will talk about what happened that night. We will not hurt ourselves and recover our health. We will the sound of footsteps, the faint smell of incense, the faint sound of a chair being pushed back, the occasional sound of a door opening and closing, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group of people chatting in the next room, the occasional sound of a group to be careful, to be alert, to be vigilant, to be on the alert, to be on the watch, to be on one's guard, to be on one's toes, to be on the alert for danger, to be on one's guard against danger, to be on one's guard against the enemy, to be on one's guard against danger, to be on one's guard against the enemy, to be on one's guard against danger, to be on one's guard against the enemy, to be on one's guard against danger, to be on one's guard against the enemy, to be on one's guard against danger, to be on one's guard against the enemy, to be on one's guard against danger, to be on one's guard against the enemy, to be on one's guard against danger, to be on one's guard against the enemy, to be on one's guard against danger, to be on one's guard against the enemy, to be on one in the future. When we go out, we will be careful at every step. What if someone suddenly grabs our arm? We will be able to say firmly, "I don't know you, so let go of my arm." What if someone suddenly grabs our mask? If you are not satisfied with the result, you can always choose to have it redone. The hands are finally free to do other things. What about the hand ice back massager?